Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls and I'm your host. Today I have the amazing, you're going to love this woman, the amazing Sandra Estok on the show. And she has an incredible story. You will not believe the story. So stay with us. And when I come back, I'm going to bring Sandra on. And we are back. Let me go ahead and bring Sandra on. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Ken. I was just sharing this interview for you in my page. So I'm so happy to be here. And
I'm so
thank you
happy
so much.
to have you here. So, Sandra, I started this about a little over 4 years ago. And this show is literally about helping people have a breakthrough in life. I do believe that people go through life, they have bad things happen, and then they get stuck in those bad things and they can't get unstuck and they don't know which way to turn. And I truly believe that by hearing other people's stories, that's where hope comes from, and they are empowered to have their own breakthroughs. So why don't we start with where you were born and raised?
Absolutely. And before I say that, I so resonate with what you're saying, Kent. I believe stories connect us, and when we relate, it might not be the same for you. You might not have exactly the same experience, but the feeling of the story, the what it is that you went through, the challenge, the circumstances are all similar. And I believe we all have a story, and some of us just have more colors in our stories than others, and that's okay. So for me, where how everything started, I will say, there are many points in my life that were significant and signature times or defining moments, if you will say. But I want to share one that I think it's one of the most impactful ones because it shaped the rest of my life. And I was 11 years old when my mom and I were evicted.
Where were you born and raised, though?
I was born and raised in Venezuela.
Venezuela.
In South America.
Okay.
Yes. And living in the country, I just have that memory so vividly. So being evicted and not having a place, it's one of those scary moments. And the only place that my mom could afford to pay was living in a shack. And I just remember that shack didn't have any water, running water, or even a bathroom inside.
Wow.
And that was not the bad thing, Ken. What was the challenge is that the other houses around where I live were normal houses, nice houses. So it was that, I think the gift that I received at the moment was to see how other possible things, or how other houses or other kids have been living their life, and in a way helped me to aspire to get better. Of course, that also created bullying and all sorts of things. And that, I think, that's where my life changed. And I will share more as you ask me the question.
So this happened, the eviction happened. You said it was just your mom, not so your parents weren't together?
So I grew up with a stepfather. So when I was born, my mom left me with my grandparents, who were extremely poor, and they have 12 other children. So my mom had to go and find the means to sustain me. So she had to leave. I was a month or so when she left, and my father wasn't in the picture at the time.
Got it. Got
So
it.
I really reunited with my mom about 4 years old,
Wow.
and my life with a stepfather in the picture now, was
Wow.
completely different.
From the age of being born until you were 4, you were with your grandparents. All of
Yeah,
this in Venezuela. And we've all heard nightmare stories about Venezuela, how it's a very, I mean, I don't know if it still is, but I know it was at one point a very, very poor country. But you were 4 years old and you were reunited with your mom. Did you even realize though that she was your mom? I mean, that had to feel weird.
it was weird, definitely, but I think I did see my mom once in a while.
Oh, okay, okay,
So yes, so she came and to visit,
okay.
and I think there is that connection that somehow you always have, regardless of whether you know your parents are your
Yeah,
parents or not. And I say this because as an adult, I connected with my biological father, and we have this special relationship. And somehow it's so interesting, Ken, when you have not, I did not live with him. I did not, he did not raise me, but I could see him. I could see myself in him. And I have things that I do that he does. And it's so weird. It's like, oh my
yeah,
God, he moves the leg this way or does this thing. And I do that. And, you know, that it's just something
yeah,
you don't have to learn. I think that's a genetic, or it comes
yeah.
part of you somehow.
So at 4 years old, you reunited with your mom. I'm assuming that means you moved in with her and lived
Yeah.
with her. And was it in the same place until you were 11 and got evicted?
Yeah, so not in the same place.
Oh,
Absolutely. I travel. I mean, there are so many details that I think if we just go to the details, we'll be
yeah,
probably spending
yeah,
the
yeah,
whole hour just in the details. But
yeah.
I did travel for many days until I got reunited with my mom, and you
Wow.
know, from there live with my stepfather, and then we moved a lot because he was in the military, and so I really never had a very stable environment. So
Right.
not really close friends, or I every year I changed schools, and that type of life somehow I think prepare me for the life that I have today, because I
Yeah.
can adapt really fast to any environment, and it allowed me to be very flexible.
Yeah. Yeah. So 11 years old, you are living with your mom. Was your stepfather in the picture still?
He was still in the picture, in
Okay.
and
Okay.
so we moved to the shack, and
Jeez.
one day, in the street where that shack was located,
Yeah.
kids always play. They
Yeah.
always play volleyball, and I
Right.
and I just remember, the shack was a square box. It was divided in two. Imagine a rectangle divided in two by a very thin wall, and it had one door on the right side and one door in the left side, and a tiny window on the right side. And there were two families that were living in this shack that were
Mm.
just separated by the wall in the middle.
Wow.
So we were living in the right side of the shack. So this I got to have the tiny window.
Wow.
And I just remember watching kids playing volleyball, and I never seen sports. At that moment in my life, I just moved so many, for so many reasons, that it fascinated me, and I really wanted to play. So I asked one time, "Can I play?" And one of the kids yelled, "Get out of here! You live in an ugly shack. Loser! You'll never be one of us." And I remember as I was just going back, with sadness and I don't
Yeah.
even remember exactly the emotions. Another kid said, hey, don't worry, let's, of course, you can join us and play with us now. We're just
Wow.
going to play a new game. And this game where everyone is in a circle, and so the first person who drops the ball has to kneel in the center, and everyone hits that person with the ball.
Wow.
So, of course, after many bruises and a broken pride, I went home.
Wow.
And I just remember this is the defining moment. And I, for you that are listening, sometimes the messages that we receive, and they are so clear, and it's just, we might not understand them, but they can change our life.
Yeah.
Because for me at 11 years old, instead of crying, what happened was I remember my teacher who a week before shared in our class, and she said, happiness is a choice because you are the architects of your own life. And I, for some reason, that was those were the words that were in my mind,
Yeah.
Ken.
Yeah.
And I just decided at that moment, you know what? I'm going to choose happiness no matter what. And I'm going to play volleyball. I'm going to take ownership, and I'm going to do the things that I can create, because I can create my life. I'm my own architect. And, you know, miracles happen, and little by little things started to change. I got a job, and I bought my first volleyball. And
You're like, and I'm gonna throw it at some kid's face now.
I remember I just practiced every single day against the
Oh
wall of my
wow.
shack. And I learned to play, and I
Hold,
joined a
how long
team.
did you live in the shack?
I lived in the shack until I was 16 years old, when we were evicted
5
again.
years.
Yeah.
So,
And
and you until you were what?
16,
Okay,
16
and
years old. So we were evicted again,
from the
and
shack,
from the shack. Yes.
evicted from a shack.
Yeah, because the
Wow.
owner passed away. And
Oh,
then when he didn't have any relatives until he passed away, and all the relatives came. And the shack was in his land. So there was a big house that he owned, and the shack was just something he built to get some income. So
got
when
it.
he passed away, the family that show up just said, get out of here, and we have to
Wow.
leave.
Jeez. And
So
where did you go?
we moved with my stepfather's relatives. And so that I was just graduating from high school. I just remember this so vividly. So I graduated from high school, and because I couldn't afford to pay for college, what I decided to do was to join a government program that Venezuela had, and it was for kids that graduated or that were under 18 years old. And for a year, that program will teach you a skill. So for women, it was to become a secretaries. And for men, it was, you could be a mechanic or an electrician, assistant. And so it
Yeah.
was that type of program. So in my case, becoming a secretary was one of the best things that could happen. I joined the program and got an internship right away in a major
Wow.
company.
Wow. And you were
Yes.
how old?
When I got the job, I was 17. So I was a year in the program. And then part of the program was to get an internship for a year and a half or two.
Okay.
So my internship was at Heinz, the
Heinz,
ketchup
the cat.
company.
Wow.
Yes.
From
And that was my
Pittsburgh,
first.
Pennsylvania.
Yes, it is. And I'm
Yeah.
close now.
Yeah.
And I just remember, hearing about Pittsburgh. Now, I'm an hour away from it.
Yeah, right. So, how long did you work there?
I worked there for 2 years.
Okay.
But now this is the magical moment that, again, I think magical things happen to you
Yep.
when you are open to them. And
Yeah.
so I just love to share this story with you, Ken,
Yeah.
and with you that is listening, because again, there are miracles every day in our life. We just
Yeah.
have to see them and take advantage of those messages that you receive. And I think
Yeah.
we all do.
Yeah.
So I was already probably a year in the program in
Yeah.
as an intern, and I was with one of the admins in the company. Every executive had an administrative assistant, and I was kind of the intern that will help that admin to perform her job. So I will make copies, I will do this, I will type some memos, and I was learning a lot. I mean, computers, I
Yeah.
was fascinated by them. So one day, one of the executive assistants asked me to bring an envelope to a hotel to just deliver an envelope. So I hop in a taxi that the company had there, and I remember she just said, "Just go deliver this envelope to this person." So I get to the hotel, and Ken, I never seen a place like that. Like I'd never seen a hotel, a lobby. And it was a 5-star hotel, and I'm entering, and I'm watching the chandelier, the flowers. I mean, it's like surreal for me to see a place like that.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was only in movies that places like that existed.
Wow.
And I enter, and I remember the bellboy walks me through the restaurant area where the man is waiting for the envelope. So I get there, I deliver the envelope, and he grabs the envelope, he look at me, and somehow, for some reason, he said, "Sandra, just sit down, have breakfast, charge it to my room." And he walked away. And
What?
I stood there like I'm like I don't know how my face probably he figured I'd never seen something like that. There was a buffet. This place was amazing. I never seen that much food in my life. So
Wow.
and I just like, okay, I sit down and I pour a lot of things in my plate, and I'm sitting and I'm enjoying the feast. But then people started to show up for breakfast. So it was very early,
Yeah.
and I could see like people wearing suits, and I'm looking, I'm glancing at them, and at one of the table there was a woman with a small computer, and I mean, it was like a moment where I was in a different time or in a different space, and as I'm seeing them, I saw myself and started to visualize
Mm.
that I'm one of them, that I have a suit, and I'm carrying a briefcase with a small computer, and that I'm
Mm.
traveling the world, and that I see myself becoming one of them. And I thought of my brother and my mom. At the time,
Mm.
my brother was just a year old, so it was we had a brand
Yeah.
new baby in the family, and I thought how they were counting on me, Ken. And I just said, I'm going to become a businesswoman. Exactly the
Uh,
same way that I decided to play volleyball. And I decided in that moment, becoming a businesswoman was the way for me to go. And
wow.
from there, my life just shifted. And I
So,
mean,
okay, so in that moment, first, I imagine I hope hopefully you left there with a very full belly.
I
Uh,
did.
I'm sure.
I
So
did.
I wanna talk about this for a minute because I think, I've had other people on the show over the years that are from third world countries that look, people in the United States here in America cannot relate to that. They can't relate. Like, you were evicted from not a really nice house, but from a shack, like a shack, and
Mhm.
evicted from there. And then as I can't, like, did you have anything to compare it to? Like, you were living in this shack for all those years. Did you know that there was better or more available? Did you know that?
I knew because my shack was the only ugly house. Everything else
Uh,
was a regular family home. So as I saw
Oh my
how kids
God.
were living, I
Wow.
mean, I remember, like, I never knew about brands. Like, just pick that example. I had never think about branded shoes or branded clothing, but everyone in my neighborhood was like branded. And I was like, what is that? Like, up until that moment when I moved into that shack,
Yeah.
even though it was, it was a difficult for me, it wasn't the same an opening opportunity to see things I wouldn't see otherwise.
Right.
And I think, yes, I see your point about, it's different here in the US, but you can relate to struggle. You
Yeah.
can
Oh yeah.
relate to, being different or
Yeah.
feeling that you don't belong. Like,
Yeah.
that feeling is universal. And,
Yeah.
if you are in a nice area where you are the outlier, you're not, you're living in the ugly place, people are going to make fun of you. It's not different than today. You if you have difference and people pick up on you because of those difference, the feeling of not belonging. I think that um it was part of many years.
Sure.
It was part of the voices in my head. I'm not good enough. I I I I I live in an ugly shack, or I do this and I do that. And somehow taming that voice internally is so important,
Yep. I
because
agree.
you might have those voices, but there are other voices that become louder, like my teacher's words, happiness is a choice, became so much louder than I'm not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this moment in the hotel, you
Mhm.
eat this amazing, and the guy didn't even know you, but he said, "Sit
No.
down and have breakfast."
Yeah.
And did you ever see him again?
I mean, he worked in the company. He was an
Oh,
executive.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you sat down, you had breakfast, you look around, you start visualizing yourself as a businesswoman, like this woman with the computer,
Yeah.
and that was a moment where life changed for you. So you left the hotel that day, you go back to your office, and what happened from there? Where, how did things start shifting for you?
Okay. So again, um, it did not happen overnight, but every
No.
step
Right,
reveal. So the
right.
first thing that I did, I joined English lessons, and that because I couldn't afford to pay for a degree in college, but I could pay for a degree. It was university degree for 2 years, just English. So,
Okay.
that I don't know, it came out of nowhere. I'm sure it's not out of nowhere, but that guidance and that English was the way for me to go. So I joined those classes, and I was there for 2 years. So now I'm 19,
Wow. Wow.
and
And
I remember
what's the native language? Spanish?
Spanish. Yeah.
Spanish, okay. That's what I
So
thought.
and again, that feeling of you don't belong. Like, I have I almost failed English when in high school because I was so different for me, and I never listened to music in English. Like, it was there were so many things that I could say um challenge me with English.
Yeah.
So when I
Yeah.
joined this course, or this 2-year program, I was again the worst in the class.
Yeah.
And but that motivated me to go better and do it, and keep going.
Yeah.
And so I did that at night. So I during the day I work from 8 to 5, and then I'll get a ride, or someone will give me a ride, or I'll take a public transportation, which was horrible in Venezuela. But I
Yeah.
will do that, and I will go to this place that was like almost 2 hours away from my job. And then I
Wow.
will go to class from 7 to 9:30 p.m. And then I will go back home, which was almost 2 hours away. So I'll be home by 11:30 p.m. And then the next day I'll just do it again.
Wow.
And
So you did that for 2 years. You ended up getting a degree in English, right?
yes,
And then
yes.
what? Where'd you go from there?
So then in the week, like the last week of my English program, I just remember I was in on the bus, and in Venezuela, usually at peak hours, the transportation is so crowded that I remember I was almost hanging by the door.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you've seen crowded buses
Oh yeah.
in South
Yeah.
America. So I'm there, and it's a Thursday night, and I'm thinking, literally, I'm like, I don't know what my next step is. Like,
Wow.
what's next for me? I need a sign. And Ken, I'm not kidding you. The bus stops because of the traffic. And I glance to my right side and I see a big sign. And it says, "Today is the last day. Enroll now." So I got off the bus
Ah,
and I went to check out what was that. And that was a technical college. And I remember entering, and there was someone in the lobby, and I'm like, what is this about? And
you
she
didn't even
explained.
know what it
I
was?
didn't know. I didn't. I swear. I was like,
Oh
what?
my
What?
God.
And she's like, okay, this is a technical degree, and it's a 3-year degree, and it costs this much, and classes start on Monday. And I just remember, like, I have no money. I was like, how am I gonna pay for it? I was like, somehow not worry about that part. I just love what she told me, and I said, sign me up. And I
Wow.
signed up. And I remember that night going back home, and I'm like, how am I going to tell my mom that I signed up for this? Like, my mom was waiting, for me to get off this English program so I will have more income. So I was paying groceries, rent. I mean,
Yeah.
there was so much that I was doing, and I have to come home and tell her, oh, by the way, I joined a degree that I have not even know how am I going to pay for it.
Wow.
But I did it anyway. And when you do things like that, I believe there is a force, that energy. I mean, I believe, for me, it's God. Is I call it mi Diosito in
Yeah.
Spanish,
What's
and I
it? What
believe
is it?
it's like Dios means God in Spanish, but
Dios?
a kind Dios. Uh-huh.
Okay.
It's God in Spanish, and I just, for me, it's Diosito. It's like my God, my,
Uh,
that person is so close
that's
to my
beautiful.
heart, and that guided me every single step of the way. And I remember just, you know joining the program, started classes on Monday, and about few weeks after, not even a month, I got someone from Heinz have moved to another company, to Kraft. And he called me and said, hey, they are looking for a secretary in the IT department. And I think you'll be great for that. So I can hook you for an interview. And I went for the interview. I got the job. And the job it was a full-time position at Kraft General
Wow.
Food. So that allowed me to pay for my degree and continue, supporting my mom and my
So you were
family.
making more money.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
And this is, you're still in Venezuela at
I'm
that
still in
point.
Venezuela. Yeah. So
Okay.
I worked in Kraft for 3 years, and I was the secretary of the IT department. Then I moved into like the help desk area. So I love computers, and I started to learn. And the same happened. Someone from Kraft left the company and went to work for Pepsi Cola. And then they needed an IT person, and she called. He's like, "You'll be great for this." And I
Oh,
went to that interview. I got the job, and I started, a new position at Pepsi.
wow.
That And I worked there for 3 years,
Wow.
3 4 years. Yeah. So again, always evolving, and
And
always,
wait, now go back to the technical college. Did you
yeah.
finish your degree there?
I finished my degree, and
Okay.
then I said, well, okay, I need to become an engineer. Like I need to like finish
Of
this.
course. Right.
And I looked for a program that accredited me a portion of the degree. So I only had to do 2 years, and I graduated as a system engineer um, at one of the universities in Venezuela. Yeah.
Most engineers don't have a personality like you have. But you've been, I think, in my first book, I wrote a line that I think Dr. Wayne Dyer said at one point, and that is, pain is the predecessor of all wisdom.
Yeah.
And, you went through it. I mean, you went through a lot of stuff. And when I say that people in America can't relate, what I mean is people in America cannot relate to living in a shack. Like,
Yeah.
most. I mean, I don't. I'm sure there's some people in remote areas that have
Yeah.
lived in shacks, but probably not on that level with
Yeah.
no running water. No, I mean,
Yeah.
was there even a bathroom? It doesn't sound like there was a bathroom.
No, there was no bathroom. There was a latrine about 60 feet away from the house.
Oh my God!
And it was
What?
it was a much smaller shack. It had a tiny door, and
Ah,
that one moment, I just gotta share these because sometimes we don't know the connections, Kim. I was so embarrassed to go to the bathroom every single day. Like
oh
I remember looking through the window when the kids were not there, so I can go to the bathroom, because everyone will know when I go to the bathroom, and I just didn't
oh
want another reason for people to make fun of me.
wow!
So this one time, I really can't hold it. I'm like, oh my God. And then there are these kids in front of my house. And but I can't. And I just have to go to the bathroom. So as I am walking by, they start yelling, of course, and mocking. And I remember they will say, oh, you have to take a bus to go to the bathroom. Like, look at you. And,
Wow!
kids are just kids, sometimes don't realizing how mean sometimes those comments and how hurtful they are. So
Wow!
I get to the bathroom, and I remember I close the door, and in about, I don't know, not even a minute, somehow the wind blows the door off, and I'm there. I mean,
Ah!
just embarrassed, but it was like a moment where I wanted to die. I was like,
Ah!
uh,
Wow!
and it is that privacy thing, and how it relate to what I do today. I mean, privacy,
Yeah,
online
right.
privacy and security. And I think those themes have so ingrained in me
Mm,
because of the exposure that I had early on in my
wow.
life, and how much I appreciate privacy today, and going through all the things that we go in life.
So that, which I cannot even imagine. But and no, 99.999% of the world can't imagine going through something like that. So wow. So you now you're at, back to the where
Mhm.
you're at Pepsi. you're
Yep.
you're you're pursuing, or had you already gotten the engineering degree, or you decided at that?
No, I was starting my engineering
Okay.
degrees, and then I moved to Pepsi, bought a beer company. So
Okay.
Pepsi became Coca-Cola in Venezuela. That was
Yeah.
a fascinating case. Where Pepsi franchise was bought by Coca-Cola, and all of the
Wow.
sudden, we became Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And Coca-Cola was building a beer company in Venezuela. So they were, and I was moved to be part of that build up of the new factory. So
Okay.
um, that I finished my engineering degree while working on this new beer company, and I learned a ton, and it was an incredible experience to be part of building something from the ground zero.
So now but like, you
Mhm.
live in the United States now, and how did you end up here from you're living in Venezuela? And I want to like in Venezuela, there's isn't it a war-torn country? I mean, isn't there a lot of is there a lot of violence there and wars or
Absolutely, there is a lot of violence. In fact, I was kidnapped. I was 23 years old. I was kidnapped. We
what?
don't have to go to that story. Yeah,
No,
I
yes,
mean,
we do. What? Wait a minute. We
yeah. So I
can't
was
go
in
past.
college.
You were kidnapped?
I was still in college,
Oh my
and I was in a
God.
student residency. And I just remember waiting for. I had a boyfriend at the time. It was before. Um, it was Easter week. It was Wednesday, and I was waiting. Like in Venezuela, everyone it's on vacation Thursday and Friday during Eastern time. So I was waiting for my boyfriend to pick me up, and I went. Houses in that case, that house, a student house, um, had a porch, and there were bars. Like most of the houses will have that.
Wow.
So I was waiting for this boyfriend. His name was Jose, and I think it was like he was probably 5 minutes away from where I was. So I was almost ready to get going, and one of my coworkers drew by my house. Think about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So this guy drives by, he looks, he sees me in the porch of the house. He rolls the window down and he asked me, Sandra, are you okay? Is everything okay? And the moment he said that, he has a pointing going in his head, and I have one too. And there were two guys behind a tree that was by the house, by the student house. And we
Wow.
both were um, pushed to the back seat of the car, and both of the guys, one was on the front seat driving, and the other one was on the other passenger seat. And they started driving, and they started to talk about how they would kill us, and it was
Ugh.
intense. So for 7 hours we drove back and forth. That was. And
Wow.
about 3 a.m. in the morning, they stopped the car, and I thought somehow this is the day. They said, get off the car, face, you're facing the back, their back. I remember the one thing before I say what happened, the guy that had the gun in my head, he said to me, close your eyes, don't look at me. And I did that. I just closed
Ugh.
my eyes. I never opened my eyes. And I go to, get off the car. I have my eyes closed, and I'm just waiting for the shot in my back.
Oh my God. Wow.
When I hear
Wow.
the tires of the car going. And we started running. We ran for about 3 hours because they left us in a very desert area.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and we got home, and now that was one of the scariest moments for me, Ken.
I can't even imagine.
And, but what happened, I think that next was, to me, what was the defining moment again. And I can, everything that happens, no matter how bad it is, sometimes brings a message too. And it's looking into that. um, about a month after the car issue, the car was actually a company car. So um, we are asked by the police to go to the station, and
Wow.
because they have captured one of the guys and they found the car, and they wanted us to ID this guy. And I didn't want to go, but I had to go. So, and I remember my coworker and I go to the place, and we enter the police station, and the chief police officer look at me as I enter, and I will never remember. I will never forget how, he said it. He said, kiddo, why are you alive? you must have a guardian angel that is so
Wow.
powerful because you shouldn't be here.
Wow.
And I was like, what? So we went to the car, and the car was, had holes everywhere from the shooting that the police and these guys had.
Oh my God.
And the police said, these guys were professionals. I mean, they were part of an organized crime ring
Oh,
that they usually steal armored cars. They have done this in every city. And this is the first time they left someone alive. Like, they have done this so many times. I don't know how. I don't know why. You two are here. And he looked at me, he said, there must be a reason for
oh
you.
my God. Oh my God. Wow.
So
Wow. In that moment, you had to feel like, okay, there's something way bigger for my life.
absolutely. And that's that defining moment that I said. It's like, yes, I'm scared. Yes, I didn't want to get out of my bed. Like, not even in my bed. Like, I was under my bed. Like, I wanted not to be out of my house. But I realized there is so much more that I have to do. I mean, and there is a force much greater than me that is watching out for me. So somehow the fears, disappear when you
Yeah.
move on. It's like, what they say,
Holy
like,
moly.
courage is
Wow.
not, it's not that you're not afraid. It's like you do it anyway,
Right.
despite of
Right.
the fear.
Wow. Sandra, I wasn't expecting that. I've seen your TED talk and you don't talk about that.
No.
Holy crap. So wow, I am just completely blown away. Jill, my wife, Jill, she's on here. She said, I cannot believe what you've been through. Yet another pivotal moment.
Thank you.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm sitting here on the verge of tears. This is unbelievable. So you wow. Okay.
So,
So
so you asked me, how did I get into the US?
yeah,
Like,
how did you end
how
up
that
here?
happened, right? So I was working for that beer company that was owned by Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
I was about 24 by then. And I was doing great, but I got a phone call from a headhunter for a job. Um, so I answered the phone call and I go to the interview. And the job, I was living about 2 hours away from Caracas, which is the capital of Venezuela.
Yeah.
The job was in Caracas, and
Mm,
he said, you know what, you'll be a great candidate for this job. I cannot tell you what the name of the company is because I have to just pass the information, and we'll see what happened. It was a Friday. I remember Monday about 8:30 a.m. I get this phone call. You remember when I went to Craft, I mentioned that someone was looking for a job and
yeah.
got me
Yeah.
an interview. That same person that hired me at 19 years old as the secretary of the IT for
No.
Craft was the hiring manager for SC Johnson, the company
Oh
that was
my
looking
God.
for the
You gotta
job.
be
He
kidding me.
looked at my name and he's like, "Oh my God, I graduated." I mean, I by
Yeah.
then I was graduated, and he's like, "You have to come to work for me."
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? So anyway, we made it happen. I moved to Caracas and I started my job at SC Johnson.
Wow.
And a year later, he relocated to the US. So I stayed in Venezuela, and he was still my boss, my remote
Yeah.
boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 5 years later, I got relocated to. So I got an offer
To move to
to
the US.
move to the US. My
Oh,
family and I. It was in 2005.
hold it.
So
Your family
my
meaning,
husband.
oh, you met okay, you got married along the
I
way.
got married. Yes,
We left that part out, but
yes,
okay.
we did. Yes,
Oh my
I
God.
was almost 30 when I married. So
Wow. So,
Yes,
okay, so 5 years later, you get relocated to the US with your family. So you
yes.
had your husband, and did you have children?
No, we couldn't. We
Okay,
we tried,
okay,
but couldn't, and
okay, okay.
it's
But
okay.
so you where did you land in the US?
So we moved to the Midwest, to the to Wisconsin, where the headquarter of the company was located.
Wow, from Venezuela.
I'm sorry.
So you
Yes, from
moved from
Venezuela.
Venezuela to Wisconsin?
Yes, I
Oh
did.
my dear Lord, have mercy. So you
Yes,
got to experience cold for a change and snow.
yes.
Oh my God.
and and then again, another pivotal moment happened. Ken, like again, it's like you get into this, and then boom, something flips your life upside down. And that was the year after I moved, when I was returning from visiting my mom, when Homeland Security officers walked me out of the plane.
Yes, let's talk about that. But first, Tom Ginn lives in Wisconsin. He says, then you know
Ah,
Oconomowoc.
of course I know that.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course,
where he lives. Yeah,
I
he's
was
watching.
near Milwaukee. Yes.
Yeah. So okay, talk about the next pivotal moment,
Yeah.
because it's unbelievable. Like this is
Yeah.
the story that I told everybody you're not going to believe, but holy crap, you may have topped it with the kidnapping story. Holy moly. But go ahead and tell everybody. First, set it up. Where were you? Why were you on a plane? What were you doing?
I was visiting my mom.
In
So after
Venezuela.
my mom was in Colombia at the time.
Oh, Colombia. Okay.
Yeah, she moved from Venezuela to Colombia,
Okay.
where her relatives are. And it was the year, right after the winter, the survival of my winter. So I went, and I was returning home, just landing in Miami. My husband was waiting for me in Chicago. And the captain announces that Homeland Security officers were boarding the plane. I don't think, anything. I remember handing them my passport and work visa. And next thing I know, I'm the only passenger marched off the plane and escorted into the room. And, that room experience um, was something I never experienced before. I
Wow.
have, for 10 hours, I was there. Didn't
10
know what.
hours?
10 hours, yes.
And
My
were you being questioned for 10 hours, or you were just sitting there?
Well, you were questioned a little bit, but then you had to sit and wait, and they were investigating. I didn't know what they were investigating. Like, I had no idea what's going on. My husband is in Chicago. He doesn't know where I am, and the plane I'm supposed to be landing on from Miami to Chicago, I'm not in. And many hours, yeah, I think probably almost 9 hours later, I begged, I, one of the TSA agents to let me call my husband and let him know I'm okay. So it was a woman, and she said, "Okay, call him." And I was able to tell him that, "Hey, I don't know when I'm coming home, but I'm okay." And
Wow.
I about 3 a.m. in the morning, I landed in Chicago. But before
But
that,
yeah,
I
what
have to
happened?
say
What were they
what happened.
questioning you about?
They did not question. They did not. I mean, they did question, but they did not provide any answers. What they did, they revoked my passport and my visa.
What?
Yeah, so they just had a big red stamp, and they said you have to leave the country. So they let me go home, but I have to leave right away. So because my employer, SC Johnson, was did all my papers and everything, I have to engage the attorneys, and we started this process. We left, my husband and I, right away, and went back to Venezuela.
Oh my God. Did you lose
And
your job?
I didn't lose my job, so I went back right away to try to get a new visa. So that was, so the attorneys work out, for me to go to another interview in the U.S. embassy in Venezuela. So I remember walking to, getting into the embassy with my husband, and the security officer in the embassy is interviewing me, and he's asking me, why were you in China? Who do you know in China? Who's your contact? I'm like,
What?
I've never been to China. Like I don't know any. I don't have any contacts. Why are you asking me questions? Why was I taking off the plane? And I'm asking him, please tell me. And he said, well, somehow a smuggler in China is using your identity to smuggle women into the US.
What?
Yep. And that's why I was taking off that plane.
They thought you were smuggling women into the US?
No, women were trying to be me entering the US. So
Oh.
somebody stole my identity. So my name, like at the time when I Googled my name, Ken, everything was in Chinese. And I own companies
Ah,
between China and Latin America. And I remember seeing my name and limited at the end, like a limited company
yeah.
or incorporated, and it will just be Chinese,
Oh my
everything in Chinese. And
oh my God.
there, that lasted 6 years. That identity theft nightmare, because I have to prove every single time I travel that I was really me.
Oh my God.
Every single time that I went to TSA, I was sent to the room, and I could be there for an hour or 10 or 5, whatever.
Oh my gosh.
So of course you realize, Ken, nobody wanted to travel with me. Not
Yeah,
even my
right.
husband, none of my coworkers, nobody. They were like,
We're gonna be late for the meetings.
yeah, they
Like,
were like, why don't you go the day before and we'll meet you there?
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So
Wow.
um
So, wow, wow, wow. Okay, so this lasted for 6 years. Did
mhm.
you ever well, obviously you made it back to the US, but in that 6-year period, did you have to stay in Venezuela?
No, no, I
Oh,
was able to return. Actually, so they gave me my new visa.
how quickly?
No, right. I mean, right away when I went to
Oh,
the interview, I convinced them. I'm like, I'm not a smuggler. Look at me.
oh,
What I did not
look at
know
me.
is that every single time I travel, I have to prove I was me.
Oh my god.
That happened. And at the time it almost broke my marriage and my career and my
Ah,
mental health. Because imagine, every single time that you travel, you have to prove that you are you. And imagine, in my case, because everything was tied to my employment. So my husband wasn't able to work for almost 2 years.
oh
And
my
now he had an
gosh.
amazing career in Venezuela. He was a professor, and here we are. He's unable to work, and it was just very,
Wow.
very, very not not
Not
a
good.
not a pleasant experience. And that happens with identity theft, and we don't sometimes think about, we lose information, but there's so much more that we lose, Ken,
Yeah. Wow.
with that.
So and I have a little bit, not so I have people that steal my pictures and create thousands of fake profiles all over the world on every form of social media. And I called the FBI one time and I said, the cyber crimes division, because some
Yep.
woman reached out that had lost $40,000 to a scammer using my pictures. And
Yeah.
I said to the FBI agent, well, this is crazy. There's so many. I probably get on average 5 to 10 people a day that reach out to me and say, hey, this guy's
Yeah.
using I know they're scammers now, but 5 6 years ago when it first happened, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Now it's like, yeah, I know they're out there everywhere. But the FBI basically said there's nothing we can do about it because we get over.
Are you there, Ken?
Yeah, I
Hello?
think my internet just had a hiccup. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So,
But the anyway, it's a serious, now that's not the same as what you went through. It's not exactly the same, right?
Yeah, but still, it's something so precious to you because your
Yes.
identity. I mean, and if
Yeah.
anyone is impersonating you
Yeah.
and doing things on your behalf, it's
Yeah.
so. It's. I mean, not only scary, but it's not. It's not something that you want people to experience
No.
relating to you.
No, I no,
Of course.
I agree. And there's nothing I can do about it. Like it feels like that, at least, the when the FBI says there's really not a whole lot we can do, it's like, what? You're the FBI. So talk about what happened for you though in that moment when I mean, good Lord, talk about an awakening, Gemini. So where did things go for you from that point? Like, you were still working with SC Johnson.
I was still, and I was in technology. I was in IT.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's why I was transferred. And I um being in IT not necessarily mean that about cybersecurity. I had no idea. I
right.
had no idea that was an identity theft. I have no idea what I could do. I just remember there was not a lot of information, not a lot of resources available to that I can go and ask questions, or that I can speak with someone, that someone could help me with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and I just had, I thought I had just to endure this, and that's it. And one day it'll go over. And 6 years later, I became a US citizen. So I changed my name, and I was able to, with a new identity, start all over with my new passport and all
Oh,
the, yeah. So it's like my native name, or in Venezuela you have two names and two last name. All of that is behind, and
ah,
um, with that took care of that issue. But
wow.
this is another moment, Kent, that it's just like somebody's writing a script up there. That's how I feel sometimes life happens
Yeah,
for us and through us.
yeah.
um a year after I became a US citizen, I got an opportunity to enter the world of cybersecurity, so to shift my job from IT to cybersecurity. And I felt like somebody turned the light on my brain, because I finally realized, this is what happened, cybercrime and identity theft. This is it. And
Wow.
learn, I mean, work for the corporate, for SC Johnson, and then left SC Johnson. I work as a consultant building privacy program and cybersecurity programs. And I really developed a passion for the topic, because it was not about just the expert view of cyber or cyber crime, or cyber security, but it was the being on the side of a victim, being of a side of someone that experienced it.
Right, right.
So yeah.
Wow. So, whoops, my mouse is acting up now. So where are you now? What are you doing now? Like, yeah, what are you doing now? And I do want to pop your website up for people to check you out
Thank
and
you.
learn more about you, but talk about what you're doing now.
So yeah, so as a result of really understanding my stories, I think that moment when choose happiness no matter what,
Yeah.
somehow came back, and I chose happiness, and I decided to open my own company, and really create something that it's a different voice in the world of cyber. And I believe that when we combine the things that we're passionate about, in my case, I'm very passionate about with well-being practices. And there is a whole chapter that we can go about health,
Yeah.
that we're not even touching, but losing your health just going through that path, and the recovery, and the things that you learn,
Yeah.
in my case, allow me to create something different, to create something that combines my stories, that combines my passion for well-being with cybersecurity, and gives a different message, because I do believe that there is a lot that we can do. I mean, I do believe that we are in charge, and somehow we think we only can be in the victim side, but I believe we cannot be there. Like, we actually can become the victor of it. And a simple example of this is when you get an email, when you get a message, you have the choice to click or not to click. And you feel, when you start feeling that you're empowered and you can just delete or do this or do that, like, there's so much power that you have at your fingertips. And that's
Yeah.
why, I am passionate about sharing that message, because it's an empowering message. I think there is a lot we can do, and I think it's just changing the mindset about cyber and not being victims.
So are you working with companies or with individual people?
So I have a series of books. Have the Happily Ever Cyber book for
Do you
individual,
do you
for
have
women.
copies of your books that you can show people right now?
Absolutely, yes. I got it. Is that okay
Go
if I
ahead.
stop?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Yeah, and your branding is on
thank
point,
you,
by the way. I love your
thank you.
branding.
This is my book, Happily Ever Cyber: How to Protect Yourself Against Hackers, Scammers, and Cyber Monsters.
Wow.
And then I created a book series for children, which it's a coloring book series that uses the stories that children know
Mm,
and love
mhm.
to teach them about cyber, because I believe that if we start early, we start developing that mindset about cyber safety, and kids 4 to 8 years old can enjoy cyber, can enjoy family time. And then I have a book, an online course that also teaches about combining well-being practices with cybersecurity, and it's in my website,
You're
Sandra.
saying you said combining what practices?
Well-being practices.
Well-being. Okay.
Well-being. Why is that, Ken? One of the things that when I think about why my identity was stolen, like, you go to your life and it's easy to look back and connect the dots, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve Jobs says. And when I connected the dots, the common thing for me was I was very distracted. I was the kind of person that didn't even remember what I was wearing the day before, or what did I eat the day before. And there is a
Right.
reason for that. I think living in that shack, I zoomed out my reality. Like, I didn't want to see where I was. And
Yeah.
because of that, I got used to not paying attention to anything around me.
Mm.
And
Wow.
somehow that, with the craziness of my job, and
Yeah.
go, like, I always was racing. My mind was always racing. I was always like doing 1,000 things at the
Yeah.
same time, and living like that, never taking a moment to breathe,
Right.
pause.
Right.
And I think that's what is, today, when I look at the world of cyber, if we take that moment before we click into something and just pause and let that inner cyber that we all have kick in, that can change how cyber crime happens, because it really, it's on to us. Like, we have that choice.
Yep. People don't realize that, and I've been in technology for 28 years, so I know little. I don't know what you know about it, but I know enough to know that I am the one that gets the phone calls from family members going, my computer says that I have to call this 800 number to, and I'm like, no, don't click that. Do not call it. It's a scam. I'm telling you, don't do it. You have spyware on your computer.
Yeah.
People don't realize that clicking on some things is really, really not good. And if all of a sudden your Google browser that you're used to searching Google starts redirecting to another website, another search engine, you have spyware on your computer, and it needs to be cleaned and removed. And so excuse me, pardon me. But people don't realize and they're getting very, very sophisticated.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why I'm passionate about bringing the message.
Yeah.
Because what I realize is if you give technical jargon, or if you give them overwhelming information, like I remember, how overwhelming it can feel. Like, and when you take step by step and you engage and you relate, I
Yeah.
think that when you relate at a personal level, it can really change the way you see cyber, and it doesn't become this boring and dreading thing that you have to do. It actually becomes part of your day.
Right. Right. Amazing story, Sandra. So everybody watching, make sure you go to sandraestok.com. It is scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. And is your social media linked from your website so people can
It is.
follow you?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sandra, you have one of the most incredible life stories I think I've ever heard. I've never met somebody that was kidnapped at gunpoint and thrown into the back of a car. That is unbelievable in and of itself. But you lived in a shack. You were evicted from a shack. You've been through so much stuff that people just in the US, at least, people cannot relate to that. And it's so amazing that now the room you're sitting in currently is probably bigger than the shack you lived in for many years.
Absolutely. And I have 6 bathrooms now in my home. Um,
Wow.
so, when you think about life, every single day when I wake up, my heart is just full of gratitude,
I'm
nothing
sure.
else. Because when you just appreciating so much of what you have, like every single time I go to the bathroom, I'm so grateful that I have a toilet. I'm so grateful I can flush that toilet. Like, I'm so grateful, there's a faucet there. The amount of things that I'm grateful for and grateful in is just incredible. And I think when you live in gratitude, things change, your life change, your
Yeah.
energy change, and the people that you're attracted to, it's incredible. And I think that's why I love sharing my story, is you out there. I mean, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. Like, you are in the most amazing country in the planet. And this country has given me so much, and I love it. And the
Wow.
opportunities that we have are for us to take and for us to be in charge of them. Just,
Wow.
see yourself in them. Whatever is that you dream, what you would love, just start seeing yourself in it, and it will happen. Yeah.
Have
Yes,
you
Tom,
have
gratitude.
yes, have you ever I can't even, like, you talked about the story of when you were using the latrine and embarrassed to even use and the wind rips the door open or off or whatever, and like, there's those moments where you're like, I'm in my bathroom in my home, one of 6 bathrooms, and there's no chance the wind is taking the door off. Like,
That's so true.
it's
Yes.
amazing. Your story is absolutely incredible. It's just
Thank you.
incredible. I really encourage everybody to make sure you look up Sandra, go to her website, follow her everywhere on social media. This woman is incredible. And you're part of Craig and I's event, the Turn It Up event. You're going to be there, and so mind-boggling to me that, like, because it's, it's not the most expensive event in the world, but it's certainly not inexpensive. And here you are, this little girl from Venezuela that has paved the way of life in America for yourself, and you're incredible. I'm so honored to and you're here in Ohio.
Yes, I am. We're gonna meet
I
soon.
know. We have to. Sandra, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your beautiful heart and your story. And wow, it was powerful. If you're just joining or you join late, make sure you go back and watch the replay. This is just such a powerful story, and it's just evidence that, you talked about earlier that you sat in the restaurant having, for the first time in your life, having, I'm sure, the best meal you'd ever had, and at the buffet at the hotel, and you started envisioning yourself as a businesswoman. You started envisioning yourself with that laptop computer and all the stuff, and it happened. You manifested that into your life. It's incredible. Such an incredible story.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a privilege to be here with you, Ken, and I cannot thank you enough for the work that you do, because your story is as incredible as mine. And I just read your book, which is fascinating, and I love it. I love how much gratitude also plays into your life. And like, I think, soul made people, you know, the synchronicities of gratitude, and the energy of gratitude will attract you to the same. And
it does.
It's a secret, powerful tool that we all can have.
It's crazy that it's a secret, though. It's crazy. That blows my mind.
It blows. But so if I can just give you one, advice, and just like something that I practice every single day, as I invite you to incorporate it. And it's every single time you touch your phone, think about something or someone you're grateful for, or something that you appreciate. I mean, we touch our phones almost 344 times a day. It's almost every 5 minutes. And if you only do that a few times, imagine how powerful your life and your transformation be. I mean, that's what I do every single day.
I love that. That's amazing. I love that. Become consciously aware.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Sandra Estok, you are now one of my favorite humans.
Oh, likewise.
Thank you.
And Jill are for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're amazing. Everybody watching, please share this out. Sandra has a very powerful story that can change the lives of so many people. So many people. Tom Ginn wants to have you on his show as well.
I will love to. Thank you. Yes.
He has. Do you know what G Force is? Do you know what G stands for?
No.
It's not Ginn. It's gratitude.
Oh, gratitude force. I love it. Yes.
Yes. Tom's a friend of mine. He's amazing. So I will connect you guys, and you can be on his show as well. So
thank you.
I love your story. So thank you for being here. I'm going to end the live stream now. Everybody watching, please share this out. This is such a powerful story. And oh gosh. And when you get a chance, go to YouTube and look up Sandra's TED Talk. She did a TED Talk that's just amazing. So go watch her TED Talk as well. And we will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you. God bless you. And we will see you all later. Thanks so much.
Bye.